Come laugh, learn, and love with us, your hosts, Peter and Teresa Martin. We're going to share stories, insights, everything on how to strengthen your marriage. We're going to have a lot of fun because we've got wisdom to share as long as it's shared with humor and maybe a glass of Italian red. Join us now for the next episode of Love That Lasts.
Welcome to another episode of Love That Lasts. We're your hosts, Peter and Teresa. We're so grateful that you're here with us again. We're having fun. I hope you are too. And like I said, we're just grateful that you're listening, and we hope that you're getting something out of it. When I was explaining to some friends what we're doing, I said, it's really just Teresa and I sitting down with a cup of coffee and just expecting that maybe friends of ours who are married are sitting down and we're just chatting. We're just having a conversation, sharing a little bit of our experience from the past, just sharing our hearts and hoping that God will use it to make the world a better place, strengthen your marriage.
I mean, that's why we're doing this, because we felt the Holy Spirit's nudge, and we have a hard time saying no to the Holy Spirit. Sometimes he has to kind of beat us over the head with it a bit before we say yes, but eventually we give in because that's who we are, willing to be fools for Christ. And so that's why we started this podcast. And it's just a delight to be able to share the blessings that God has done in our lives. So we're here more as a witness, as like a transformed hearts and joyful hearts. And Peter and I were reminiscing over, we had the idea for this podcast like 2.5 years ago. And at least, and it's been a long time coming to actually bring it to fruition. But even then, I think we weren't ready then because of a key thing that we're going to talk about today, but like to be okay with not being okay and not being perfect, and to like be able to take yourself lightly and be able to just be humble enough to put yourself out there. Because obviously, you guys, we have flaws and we are not perfect, far from it. And we make mistakes, and we just do the best you can. But you're in progress mode. I mean, that's kind of going to be our mode for our whole life. It's worth sharing, and it's worth speaking out for Christ and what he's done to bring us this far. So maybe in our minds, we still have like ways to go in growing in holiness and kindness towards each other all the time. I mean, we're getting better, but being okay with not being perfect. And I mean, that's really the key for this one. Is it's a quote from G.K. Chesterton, which I think we've shared before. But angels fly because they take themselves lightly. And this idea that like your heart is lifted when you can just be like, hey, you guys, it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Like, okay, yes, we're working, but you don't have to get so stressed out that you're not holy enough yet.
And I think what happens is we get our emotions in the way. So these things that we're dealing with, maybe it's an argument, maybe it's money, they do have and bring tension with them. There's no doubt about that. But I think when we heighten it with our anxiety, with our frustration, whatever it is, then it makes it even more difficult to overcome. So when we get to a point where we realize, okay, this is bad, on the face of it, this is a difficulty, but you know what? People have been going through difficulties their whole lives and they still survive. So it's not the end of the world. Let's just take a breath. And as we've said before, let's just put the two of us together on this problem. And in order to do that, we have to let go of the tension, that whatever is built up in us, we have to just release it and say, no, I want to fix the problem. I don't want to fight about the problem.
You talked about not having something between us Can you talk more about that? Because I don't know if we've
Okay, yeah, I don't know.
described
We've said
that.
it before on other occasions, but Teresa always says, if there's something that comes up, lots of things do. Probably it came up from the past. Maybe it's not uh, your fault. Maybe it's not your spouse's fault, but something happened. So I'll just use a dumb example that, we've seen lots of examples, but one of debt that comes into the marriage that was one or the other's spouse's. It can be frustrating because all of a sudden the other spouse is like, great, now I have to deal with that too. And it can be something of a sticky spot. And if it gets in between you, all of a sudden there's that divide. Now, it's his debt and I hate it and it's frustrating both of us. But what Teresa always says is great advice is to take that, whatever it is, out from in between you, place it in front of the two of you, stand shoulder to shoulder and attack it together because you have to. That's the only way. This is what being married to become one. It's also you have each other's problems to deal with, and thanks be to God. And it's His plan.
It's
We'll
beautiful.
explain later, I'm sure, that it's because of our two in oneness. It's because of our marriage that we were able to be healed from things from the past. Whereas if it was still just, if I was a bachelor, if Teresa was still single, we'd probably still have those things in our minds, in the back of our heads, just those voices, whatever it is, we probably still carry that baggage with us. But the beauty of marriage is that when you take on whatever it is together, then you are healed. And
Yeah.
then it obviously assists your marriage as well. So,
So, I mean, you were talking about financial debt, but even like the debt of wounds,
yeah,
that so like something from my past, and it's my issue, but yet Peter was able to take it on, and he said, "No, no, it's not just your issue. I'm here to help you." And
right.
that's our goal, and that's our job in marriage, is to step in and say, "Yes, I'm here. I'm here to help you with this and help you through it." And I remember one time when the kids were little, and you try to not lose your mind when you're trying to get kids to church on Sunday, okay? And that they show up with actual matching shoes. They definitely did not have matching socks. Um, and for someone who wants to do things right, and all of you, if you're listening to this, you want to have a good marriage. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be listening to our podcast. And you want to have a good marriage in Christ. And so you want to do all these things well. And so, like, there's a tension a bit to be like, oh my gosh. And I look and you think, okay, I think we did it this time. And I think everybody's good. And then you look down the way, and yeah, somebody is mismatched, or I don't even know what kind of shirt they're wearing. That was not supposed to be worn to church. I don't know what's going on. I think the worst one, oh, should I tell this story? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna. Okay, so the worst one was we were kind of in a whirlwind of getting everybody ready for church, and I realized that my dress needed some stitching because it was like, I don't know. I think I had lost a little weight, and so I had to like stitch it. So I quick threw on like my towelette that just wraps around me, and put the dress on the sewing machine, fix the dress, put the dress back on. Somebody else needed my help. Somebody else needed something else. Anyway, we get to church, and all of a sudden I was like, I think the inner lining of this dress is falling out. No, me and my crazy self had left my towel on under my dress, did not even know. And I had to, like, in the middle of like mass, when everyone was sitting down, use a baby to hide the fact that I'm shimmying this towel out from underneath my dress. Oh my gosh, stuff it in the baby bag so nobody could see. But it's like being able to be like, all right, this is us in our reel.
I thought you were going to talk about.
Oh, wait, we have another embarrassing
Yeah,
story.
no, I that was not the one I was remembering. I was remembering the one where same thing. Sunday mornings are rough. We learned we now leave a half hour early, even if we're there a half hour early. Fine, whatever. But sometimes you need that extra time because, of course, somebody can't find their shoe. It's always something. So it was one of those Sundays. and it was
I'm really nervous about what you're about to say.
it was winter, and we get there, take the jackets off, and one of the kids is wearing a costume. I don't remember what it was exactly. I know it had fur because I realized, yeah, that's
Keep
you,
your jacket on,
you
kid.
can't hide that. That's and then of course he doesn't have appropriate clothes on underneath because the costume probably wouldn't fit, and that's your real. And you just have to laugh about it now.
So
This is
please be encouraging to parents whose kids are dressed like ridiculousness because they probably just snuck it and they probably had no where. Yes. Oh, my word.
it was so now we're able to laugh and we're able to tell you just to take yourselves lightly, but I'm really doubting that I was laughing at that moment.
No, we were probably pretty stressed. And yeah,
Um,
but like it gets to that point where sometimes God allows the ridiculous to compound
yeah.
until you can laugh. Because like one thing after the next, and we had a struggle when so our first few years of our marriage, we waited to have kids because we were studying in Rome and we barely had enough money to even feed ourselves because we were starving grad students. So we waited to have kids. NFP works, just by the way. And then our first son was born. We were back in the United States, and then our second son was born, and he has this rare disease that we didn't even know. It wasn't diagnosed well for 5 years. So the poor kid was sick a lot every other night, up in the middle of the night, throwing up. And so Peter and I would take turns. And not only was he up throwing up, but he was screaming. And we didn't even, and we're like, just stop screaming. Like it's that screech screaming that just like gets in your head. And nobody was able to diagnose him. I mean, the poor kid, but like it strained us too because we weren't getting sleep and we were just at our wits' end. But that child, God bless Louis, he's doing very well now and got diagnosed correctly. And he's, believe it or not, a happy adult. But like he would be the one to be wear the most ridiculous things. And like he was just in his own world. And it pushed us to this place of, okay, because on the other hand, the poor kid like couldn't eat every other day. And then so then you're just like given to whatever he wants to eat, and
Yeah,
he
cake
lived on hot dogs and hot
and
and,
chocolate milk
and chocolate milk.
because he couldn't. He'd be sick in the morning, so we couldn't feed him breakfast. So we got that instant carnation, or I don't even remember what
The
it's
one
called.
with at least some vitamins.
Right, exactly. And so we're like, well, I guess you're having a chocolate milk morning again. Anyway,
Again. But he
so
was the one who would push us to like ridiculous
and
things
then
because he would dress.
you get to a point where you
Yeah.
realize, okay, obviously we can't control it, so let's just kind of relax and get through this. Yeah, it's very difficult, but in the end, being stressed about it
It doesn't.
wasn't helping
No.
either. So we just through the school of hard knocks, we started to learn that, you know what, let's just relax. Like sometimes issues come up and we get frustrated and we get it,
And we would
but
blame each other
right.
too.
But
Yeah.
instead of fighting about it,
Yeah.
let's just relax. Let's do the thing that we just discussed. Let's just put whatever it is in front of us and then let's talk about it. And so that's the idea of being humble, e- especially in the area of communication. When those emotions are all in there, you're not communicating anyway, and your spouse isn't either because he or she is just going to react. That's what they're waiting to do is I'm being
On
thrown
defense.
all these arrows and I'm just going to start deflecting and I'm going to say my side of the story. That's not helpful. So when we say relax, be humble, just take a breath, recognize that okay, there is an issue here that we need to talk about. But then have time set aside and discuss. There were so many times in our marriage when things came up and Teresa, and God bless her, these are all human emotions. Teresa was anxious because of that. We talked about expectation was like, oh no, if this is a problem now, it's going to be a problem unless we fix it right now. So
Uh,
what would that do? But
mm,
just make me realize, okay, I'm in trouble for something. And then I had to start to think about how am I going to react. And a lot of times it was, I got to get to work or I got to get to class or whatever it was.
yeah.
And then that frustration was with her all day, was with me all day. So that's where the kind of wisdom comes in of Okay, it's fine. Whatever the issue is, that's not the problem. We're not trying to say, oh, just don't worry about it or try to pray it away. No, that's not what we're saying. But take the time, the extra effort to say, hey, we need to talk about this. Not right now, but over a glass of wine. And just I'd like to discuss what your thoughts are. Because
Yeah.
I think that's where the wisdom comes in, is we realize no, we weren't actually on different pages at all. We were on the same page, but the devil had put this idea in that no, she thinks completely opposite of you, and this is going to be a living hell for the next 20 years.
And so, if you need another spoiler alert, Satan does not want your marriage to survive. So he is going to do what he can to whisper little things and little doubts and to try to pit you against each other. And so the best but also Satan has no sense of humor. So our humility to take ourselves lightly and to just take a breath, take a beat, and realize that, okay, and part of the tension comes with worry and anxiety. So I think particularly for Louis and for any one of you who has a child who's sick. So they have this rare disease. 3 of our kids have it. Peter also has it, but it didn't present as strongly as it did in Louis when he was younger. And you have all these worries, and then you try to do these things, and then something doesn't go right, and our anxiety about our child being sick comes out in, I thought you were going to try this, why didn't you give him the extra medicine, or why didn't you, yeah, I don't know, why didn't you make sure he took that extra nap, or what, all these remedies and things, because the regular medicine at that point, they hadn't diagnosed him correctly yet. But then, but really, what it came down to was we were sad for our kid,
Mm.
and we wanted him to be better. And so, but all we could do is like the first reaction is, you should have done this, or we should have done this, or and then you play this kind of blame game, but when it comes down to it, like taking a beat and being able to talk about it,
Yeah.
you realize that it really is, you're both on the same place of, we're really sad by this, and this has upset us because we don't want our child to suffer. And it sounded like he was going through this torture every other night. And really what it came down to was like this surrender of this journey of just like medical stuff. And so yeah, if people have chronic, that can be a whole different episode too, of dealing with a child with chronic illness. But that's, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say our advice is to, and we talked about this before, have time set aside, date night, couch time, whatever you want to call it. But I when I say date night, I would not go out. I mean, you need time together, just the 2 of you without distractions of the waitress asking you how your meal was before you'd even taken a bite. And, to be able to talk without somebody, so put your phone down,
Yeah.
set it aside, and just have a conversation. But if this is your first time, just like we said earlier, that you shouldn't start with the most difficult. So let's just say you're going through a really rough patch right now, financially speaking. I'll use that example. I wouldn't bring out a spreadsheet.
To your date night.
That's not so.
And
These
then
are,
with a pointer of,
or you can really screw this up if you wanted, but that's
these
not
are
the
all the
point.
these are all the things that you purchased
Let
that
me
you
show
shouldn't,
you
right?
all the expenditures from last month. Those in red are yours. And look,
And
there's
it's
not very
your
many
problem,
black ones.
right? So if you don't know already, try to avoid the you statements, because even if you're upset about something, what we need to do is take responsibility for our own feelings. We can't be responsible or change someone else's feelings. So to be able to say that I felt dismissed or accused when you showed me that spreadsheet, right? But instead of like, you're such a jerk, you always do this and you always do that, to make sure that when you're having these conversations, that you're careful of your language too, so that it creates an environment of receptivity on both your parts, where someone can share and feel like they could share and not be attacked, and it be a safe
Right,
place.
right. And that if you're, because some of us grew up that way of being very good at arguing and making our case. And so some of us, there are lawyers out there, and like, I do this professionally. I will always win. Winning is not the answer in this
No.
situation, except for whatever that issue is that the two of you on the same team tackle that issue. So that's where you have to be in your communication. It has to be a recognition that you and I are together.
Yeah.
We are not the problem. The problem is something else. So the problem could be in between you. Likely there's something like, sweetie, I think that we need to communicate with maybe a better tone when or something, but not because I'm upset with you, but this is how it makes me feel. I don't want others to misinterpret what's happening, whatever it is, but just remember that you're not there to attack one another. The very central point of that gathering is I love you and I want to love you more. And I want our love to be a gift to the world. It's not just for us, it's for our children, it's for our family, it's for our friends that they recognize that we love each other deeply. And in order to do that, again, you have to take that time. And for me, the humility came in just the fact of, no, you actually have to communicate.
Sharing
I didn't
feelings.
I didn't feel like that was necessary. No, we just keep doing the things and everything will work out. And no, the other one needs to know how you feel about things. Can't just keep moving forward without having a conversation.
Because if it's what do they call that? Emotional intelligence. So you to recognize that Um, we joke because when we first got married, Pete said he was happy or he was angry. Those are the 2 emotions he could have. But like anger is an external reaction to usually something that's going on deeper, whether someone feels attacked or they feel vulnerable or they feel, offended or hurt, or there's some like something that like they they never felt affirmed in this way, and this is just, like, pouring salt on the wound, right? Like, and just getting in there and but they're not acknowledging that, they're just rebuffing it with a bit of anger and pushing it back, and so that's why it's important to have a bit of emotional intelligence about yourself, and that happens slowly, because we say, be a student of your spouse for your whole life, but also yourself. You're understanding yourself, and God is allowing you to have a deeper understanding of who you are as a person and how wonderful you are. And so, like we want to fully understand and love our spouse, but you also need to love yourself. And sometimes that's harder to accept yourself as you are, flaws and all. Pete said that you shouldn't try to battle and win in a marriage. And I mean, it's really true. Like I grew up, I was one of the ones we did like logic games in my family. And so winning an argument was like a thing. Like, okay, I've successfully argued, I've won this argument. But if you win an argument in your marriage, you lose. Because what you have is okay, you might feel good because you won that argument, but your spouse was just beaten down, like, and now you have a beaten spouse, and that's not loving, and there came a time where I had to be like, being loving is more important than being right in this argument, you know what I mean? And just be like, "Okay, agree to disagree, let it go," you know?
I think one of the things to be wary of is taking this advice and trying to use it for your benefit. So the idea of having couch time, having time set aside to communicate is not to fix something. So if you go in thinking I'm going
I
to
mean, it
use
is
this,
for their
no, but if you go in and say, all right, we're going to talk about this and we're going to solve this problem, that's
mm,
not what we want. What we want is we're going to talk about this, but we're throughout all of it, we're going to make sure the other knows that they're loved. And that's what my fear would be is somebody's like, oh, yeah, finally I can sit down and take care of this overspending problem. Everybody's going to think you have an overspending problem. She doesn't. Just we don't have
I
enough
might.
to overspend. So,
Well, yeah, we don't even have very much to
uh,
spend,
but
so
the reality, it don't go into it thinking, finally we can fix this problem, because it's, yes, that will happen, but only through the love that you communicate. Those, so yeah, I don't want people to think, oh yeah, we should do this
so that
for these
we
purposes,
right.
because the
Because
other
then
reason
that's
is
utility.
precisely, and then you're going to get frustrated when it doesn't work.
So okay, so here's a here's a little thing. So JP2 talks about personalism, and that every person should be treated with dignity because they they should never be used, and they should just be treated with love, and because they're made in the image and likeness of God and have great dignity. So the opposite of love is not hate, it's use. So if you're using your conversation with your spouse just to fix this problem, then that all of a sudden it turns into this like utility conversation. And we want to have conversations that get deeper than that, and that really just, I mean, sometimes you need to have those conversations. But when we're talking about kind of this date night, we use this method of communication called dialogue. And I think we have just a minute or so to go through it, which I really would like to share with you, because taking time to share at this level, because people are going to say, but we need to solve problems. And you do, right? Like on a daily basis, we have to figure out the logistics and how to pick up kids and when to drop off kids and how to manage our budget and balance the budget. And you do have to have those conversations, but these date nights should be a place where you're getting to know each other and loving each other and accepting each other on a deeper level, so that it touches that deepest need to be fully known and fully loved. And so we use the dialogue process, and it's not our invention. They use it at other programs too, and it's just a moment where we can put information more in the comments in the notes of the show. But it's a place where you write down, you have a question and you write down a letter to your spouse, answer the question, and then kind of unpack your feeling. And then you switch the books with your spouse and you take time, you read it twice, once with your head, once with your heart. And all you're trying to do is understand how your spouse feels. And so then you take turns discussing it and understanding how your spouse feels. And like I said, we'll put more details in the notes. But it really just gets down at that place. And once you make that space and you feel loved, then when that's done, you can, right?
Yeah,
You would say you
and
could jump off then and have
no,
those.
absolutely, because you've already diffused. If there was emotion, after you read your spouse's journal, for the most part, you're going to find that, oh, this is how they felt. I thought they were thinking differently. That's hopefully what you discover. And then, yeah, absolutely, you can continue to have the discussion. You may not want to, because you realize, you know what, it's not that important. I love you, and that's what's most important. We can give more detail about this. But in the end, we started with the idea of humility, taking yourself lightly, because dang it, we do get worked up,
We
and these
do.
are important, and you get all like this tension, and you really want to just win, or you want to fix it. Just the answer is love.
Or you're like a grammar police and want to correct things.
Jeez Louise, I can't read this handwriting. No, that yeah, the reality is, the problem, whatever it is not as big as you might seem, that it might seem, and that what's most important is the love that you have for your spouse. So when you strengthen that, and when she recognizes, okay, his love for me is most important and it's bigger than this problem, then the things will work themselves out little by little. But you've got to be able to recognize that that is what's most important, which is why that idea of standing shoulder to shoulder is so useful, because you realize, all right, sweetie, I don't want this to affect our love, whatever it is. And God knows this. we all deal with some pretty big things. And some of you right now, you're probably thinking you have no idea.
Mhm.
I don't, but
But Christ does.
and I do know that this is the order of things.
And
First love your spouse and then allow that love to strengthen the two of you to see with the eyes, with that wisdom that we're given, that to be able to take care of the problem without damaging your relationship.
yeah. Well, and something beautiful happens when you feel loved. So when you're on the receiving end, we've been talking about loving your spouse, but being on the receiving end of that, when you feel loved and accepted just as you are, then you start letting your defenses down even more. And you're not on guard, right? And because that's what Satan wants you to think, that you have to be on guard against your spouse, against your husband, against your wife, because they're going to say this and they're whatever. I mean, all the ridiculousness. When you feel loved, you let that guard down. And then you can let each other in closer and God can bring you closer. And so, I mean, that's an important thing too, you guys. So, take yourselves lightly, but also just give every single day to Jesus and give every single day to God and pray together. Even if it's something really simple, like I know, like, sometimes it's weird because we can be, physically intimate, and then you talk about praying together. Oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't pray together. Because sometimes that is even more intimate in your heart and in your soul than physical intimacy. But it's important because you're in this together. And even if it's just like a glory be or something, or just how can I pray for you today? What intentions? And then all of a sudden you're opening up at a deeper level of what's on each other's hearts, and you're able to care for one another. And again, like you're taking away those barriers between you that maybe have been kind of put around so that, oh, we don't want to fight about that. So we just won't talk about it. And we don't want to fight about that. So we just won't talk about it. And so there's the lumpy rug, right? Or the minefield that you're tiptoeing around, that God wants to break down, but he wants to do so in a loving way. When God does it, it's not full of tension. It's full of love and it brings you closer together. And 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 yeah, and sometimes you're not going to look perfect and your hair might be a little frizzy and the kids might be dressed ridiculous, and it's okay. And God still loves you. And we love you guys, and I know that you love each other, and it that's where joy comes in, when we realize that on this journey that God is with us in the moment and in the present. And it's not about achieving or arriving at a certain level of, I don't know, holiness or something, but that it's enjoying this journey and in the now and loving yourself. So I mean, that's kind of how you have to, uh the mode to take yourself lightly is accepting yourself,
Right.
right? And that's hard.
So, a challenge for this week, did you have one in mind? I was thinking share with your spouse during that time where it's just the two of you together. Share something goofy that happened to you when you were younger, something they don't know. You haven't shared this, something ridiculous. This is the way for us to recognize that, listen, if I can't tell my spouse, I can't tell anyone. So that's dangerous when we keep secrets.
I'm not gonna make you say it on air, but can you think of something that I don't know?
I don't know. I feel like I probably shared it all,
We've
but
shared.
I'm gonna work for
Alright,
something.
we're
I did
gonna
a
have
lot
to
of
think about
stupid
this.
stuff when I was a kid, so I'm sure
Yes,
I could
things
think
that
of one.
I try to keep from our boys. Then they are slowly hearing stories when, their Uncle Father Sam comes to visit, and they're like, "Dad did that? Man, he's cooler than I thought he was." I'm like, "No, he is not."
Do as I say,
Right?
not as I do. So it doesn't have to be something earth shattering. Heaven forbid we get a message. By the way,
I
your
shared this.
your
"You
child
ruined my
ruined my
marriage."
marriage.
No,
But
no.
there's just a way to take yourself lightly and invite your spouse to do the same. And you know what? these challenges are meant to strengthen your marriage. If it's something that you're like, I'm not going to do that, then don't do it.
And
I'm not checking up on you.
we are not checking up. There's the and that's the other thing too. It's like sometimes we're like, we need to be this kind of couple. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You do not need to be that kind of couple. You just need to be yourself. You just need to be yourself. And your journey is going to look different than our journey, than the couple down the street, than the other couple in church and their family. And that's okay. You don't have to be like whoever that person that you're looking up to. And it's good to be like, all right, but probably you're seeing the best version of them, and that can be detrimental to you to compare yourself to that kind of outward appearance.
Well, that's all the time we have today. We're grateful that you're here, and we hope that you have a love that lasts.
God bless you.